There is always the temptation to add as many things as possible to a model railroad, or attempt to model everything on a railroad on your layout. But sometimes it can be too much. Hey everybody, my name's Jimmy. Welcome to Coffee and Trains. Today I'm just drinking some store brand coffee today, nothing special. If you want to tell me what kind of coffee you are drinking and have it featured just like these guys right here, you can leave that in the comments below. Also, you should check out my new channel that I have launched, Jimmy's Trains. That is going to be linked right up here as well as at the end of this video. And basically, it's just my trains running around my layout, something relaxing to put on in the background while you're working on your railroad. So check that out. Cheers, guys. Before I begin this video, always remember that Rule 1 still applies to all model railroads, that you can do whatever you want because it is your railroad. But I recently came across a situation when designing my next model railroad where I was trying to cram an entire short line into a compact space. No matter what I did, I wasn't happy. My layout is going to be a proto-lance, which is a mix of prototype and freelance. I am modeling the Yadkin Valley Railroad, which is a short line in western North Carolina. A little info on its operations. It has two distinct lines that run from Rural Hall, North Carolina. One goes along the bank of the Yadkin River into the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains, and one goes up north to the town of Mount Airy. Now, initially I was going to try and do both lines, but my new space is going to allow for a layout that is 12 foot by 7 foot. So I immediately nixed that idea, which brings me to my first point. Look at your space and see what you can do. I knew my space could house one solid line and I could do a lot with that line. In the real world, the westbound line is the heavily traveled one and the northbound line is used sparingly. So I settled on modeling just the westbound line, so bringing it back just a little bit. I began to look at the various towns and industries that the line ran through. There are two main concentrations of industries on this rail line. Originally, I wanted to model all of them and go as far back as having the train go back to its connection with Norfolk Southern and bring cars from there to the industries. The two main industry concentrations were in an area east of Elkin, North Carolina, and around the small town of Roaring River, North Carolina. There are a couple of additional industries near the east end of this line, but they're pretty spread out. And this brings me to my second point. If you are low on space and you want to model some industries and towns, concentrate your railroad around those industries and towns. The Yadkin Valley Railroad is very scenic as it runs along the Yadkin River, but the first portion is mostly just track running through the countryside, and it has the occasional industry. So I decided to concentrate my modeling on the western portion of the line. This is where I was for a long time in the design phase. I was working on a U-shaped design with the Elkin Industries on one end and the Roaring River Industries on another. I couldn't quite make the layout work though, so I decided to go and take a look at the actual railroad. I grabbed my drone and I headed north to the railroad line. This is where my next point comes in. Look at the railroad itself for inspiration on your track plan and everything. Look where industries are, all these kind of things to figure out how you can lay things out. Now, I'm lucky enough to be modeling something near me, so I can actually go up and look at it. If you are not, there are a ton of great resources like Google Maps and OpenStreetMap.org. And I'm actually planning an entire separate video on this process and how to find track and rail lines and all this kind of stuff and look at industries. When I began looking around the railroad, I discovered something interesting. I started to look around the area and noticed that the area around Elkin had quite a lot that I could model. I was able to find 8 industries or sidings, a small yard, and a crew change point in less than a dozen miles. The rail line also closely followed a river, the Yadkin River, and went through a small town in the downtown area, that's Elkin. This checked so many boxes that I was driving around, I realized that I didn't even need to go up to Roaring River to scout. I had everything I needed in this small area. Now, 7 industries is a lot for my space, so how do I shrink it down even more? In a lot of areas, you will find that a lot of the industries that are rail served supply the same thing. This is especially true of farming and mining. In this stretch, there are 3 feed mills, and since I'm compressing the railroad, I'm going to use 1 feed mill to represent this. This is my next point. If space is tight, you can eliminate redundant industries. You can also eliminate drop-off points that may be seldom used, like this siding in a power substation. When I started the design of my new railroad, I was going to model a lot in a small space. I was going to cram it full of everything on this railroad. But as I researched more and more, I realized that I was attempting to do too much. I found a small area of the railroad that had a lot to do, and everything that I wanted. Thank you all so much for watching. If you want to check out my new channel, Jimmy's Trains, you can see a link right here. Also, if you're a 3D printer, I started selling my models on Patreon. I have my Patreon page linked at the description below. You can buy those 3D models outright, or you can become a member at the engineer level, which is $5 a month, and get a model of the month for free, plus an access to my entire database. Thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, I'm Jimmy from the DIY and Digital. Stay safe, be kind, drink some coffee, and happy railroading.